Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy new year. First episode of 2023, and we are back. Aaron, welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm not seeing my very cool green QuickBooks chap sign that I saw in your latest video. I'm not seeing all the merch. What's going on?
I know. I mean, I'm actually not in my studio. It's weird. I'm on holiday. I'm down inside. Which way am I? To the side of Norfolk. So yeah, I thought we'd have a few days off for the better half's birthday, and yeah, still working obviously, but yeah, not in the glorious studio. So bit different.
That's commitment in itself. The fact that you're here for the first podcast of the year whilst on holiday in brackets in Norfolk, lovely Norfolk. I've just booked a week in Whitby in June, so love that.
Well, it was the fact that we hadn't done one in the whole of 2023. So I thought, we've got to. It's been a year, hasn't it? A whole year of not doing podcasts.
A whole year.
Yeah.
It's been a long year.
Exactly.
Without us entertaining the world.
Exactly. So I thought we had to do it. We had to get that first one in, make sure people get through January, as I'm sure most of our listeners are kind of struggling through the January blues. So yeah, we thought we'll be there to add a bit of extra spice in the morning.
Yeah, definitely. And we were just chatting, weren't we, about January off air, and how there's a very interesting split, shall we say, across the industry at the moment, where you've got this group of accountants that I had all my tax returns done by November, or we've had the information since November and we're not taking on any new ones. And they're very proud of that, and rightly so. If that's how they want their business to run, that's great. But then we're seeing people getting stick from those people because they're still taking on tax returns. They're still supporting their clients. And ultimately, look, we do about 300 self-assessment tax returns a year. I think we've got about 100 left to do. We had a really good charge on the old tax returns back in April, May, June, July this year. And we got a really good chunk done and out of the way of. Then things happen. Clients went on holiday. We made an acquisition, so our focus changed. And we're now back on tax return season, And yeah, I mean, I'm still getting probably an inquiry a day on average from people that are new to us, asking if we'll do their tax return. And I'm not going to close my door on them. I'm not going to say, no, it's your fault. You should have been here before November. I'm not going to turn away the money, if I'm honest. So yeah, I mean, educating your clients is all well and good, but actually at the same time, I think there needs to be some give and take. And I don't know about anyone else, but I quite enjoy the last weekend of January. I'm normally in the office, headphones on, cracking on, being quite sad, to the point that the wife expects me now to be in the office on the last weekend of January. She makes plans to go out and enjoy herself. But yeah, Aaron, what's your approach to tax return deadlines?
I'm not sure I enjoy it. I don't think enjoyment's the way forward. But I do see what you mean. I do like we've been accountants for long enough to know that January is always going to be a rough time, isn't it? I do feel for the people who are getting stick at the moment on socials because, they're saying how busy they are and other people are telling them they should train their clients and all this, that and the other. It's never going to happen. I mean, if you think back to the last couple of years with COVID, there was an incentive for people to get their tax returns in early. And we had that whole element of people trying to get it in so that their self-employed income support schemes were paid on time and all that sort of stuff. There was a reason for people to get them in, and we haven't got that now. So, people are kind of falling back into the old ways of what it is. I mean, we'll come on to MTD and everything else, but one of the dreams of MTD is we should get away with this or get away from the January madness, and it should be something that's a bit more proactive going forward. But time will tell. I mean, I personally can't see it myself. I think clients are always going to be leaving it to the last minute. They bury their head in the sand for some of them, and you can't change that. That's how it's going to be for them. But for us, we just, we always prep for the extra bit of work in the January period. December, January is always going to be a little bit more busy for us, and we've just always prepped to make sure that we can have the capacity to make it work. I think we're pretty much, like you've said, we're probably numbers wise or percentage wise probably about the same percentage as you, but we've got no worry that that's not going to get done. It's just a case of wait until some of the information comes in, or clients have filled us the last little bits, or whatever it is that we're waiting for. So yeah, we'll get it all done, but it is what it is, isn't it? You wouldn't be an accountant if you didn't like to give up your Januaries and have that time there. So again, I'm not sure I enjoy it, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's like working in hospitality and retail and complaining December's busy. Well, yeah, it is. You know, you're not going to get away with a quiet December, and if you do in hospitality, you've probably got a problem happening with your cash flow. So yeah, it's just our peak time. It is what it is, and sod's law is that the busiest VAT quarter always ends with January the 7th as a deadline. That's certainly our busiest months. You know, we have about twice as many VAT returns that need filing by the 7th of January than we do the December or February period. And then slap that on top of everyone taking time off for Christmas and New Year, plus tax return season, it becomes a little bit crazy. But it comes with the job. It comes with the job. So good morning, Samantha. Welcome and happy January to you too. Fantastic to have you listening in. I believe you're working busy on your tax returns like we are, which, fair play to you. And hopefully you've got some more inquiries coming in to make it even busier for you. But yeah, so Aaron, we've been off for 2 weeks, drinking, eating, generally getting fatter and unhealthier. But we've not taken our finger off the pulse of the news, have we? We've been monitoring it carefully, and there's been some interesting things, some big headline things, and some other little things that most people might have missed, but we think are really interesting to have a chat about today. So where do we start? Shall we go for the big one first? Yeah. So when we last recorded our session, we were talking about MTD ITSA and the fact that everything in the grapevines, all of our fingers on the pulses, told us MTD is going to get delayed. But oh my God, did HMRC blow us away? Not only did they delay it a year, they delayed it 2 years. And then they decided when they do it, they're going to phase it in. Well, we've just taken what could have been a really simple, pretty much everyone's involved in this, to a really head-scratching, frustrating system where we're going to have to go, right, hang on, what's this person's turnovers combined? Does this mean they do or don't qualify for MTD? Blah, blah, blah. And also all of that education, planning, systems, time spent speaking to software providers to work out what's going on is all on pause. And I would argue with 2 years added to the deadline, a lot of it's probably wasted, and you have to redo most of it because it won't be relevant by the time we get there. So this is the news that just before Christmas, MTD ITSA was formally delayed. HMRC and the Treasury announced that instead of MTD ITSA becoming mandatory for anyone over £10,000 turnover on a self-assessment form from the April 2024, it's now going to be April 2026 for anyone with a turnover of more than £50,000, and then 2027 for anyone with a turnover for more than 30. Now, I'm seeing accountants coming up on social media saying that rules out 95% of my clients entirely because they're all under £30,000. I think it certainly rules out the landlord situation we were facing, which is challenging for softwares like Hammock and people like that. But yeah, Aaron, what was your thoughts? Were you kicking and screaming and turning blue with profanities, or were you like, yeah, well, we saw it coming, it's fine?
I think the only positive is we finally have some concrete news, isn't it? I mean, the amount of times we've been on this podcast alone just speculating and thinking and wondering, and you listen to all the other podcasts and all the other social media posts, and everyone else were in that state of flux of, well, what's going to happen, or is it going to happen? We were wandering around a digital accountancy show, weren't we? And we were going around hearing about HMRC's had this meeting, and what could the meeting mean, blah, blah, blah. We all knew or could see it coming that there was going to be some form of delay or some form of pushback. My personal opinion is that in one way they've not done enough, in another way they've done too much. For that, I mean that, do we really need 2 extra years if we're going to be putting these extra bits in terms of this complication about there's going to be a stepped approach, and this stepped approach is then going to ultimately mean that clients are probably going to more likely not be a self-employed anyway. They'll probably be limited status, because why would you, go to or stay self-employed and have all this extra bit coming and all this complication coming in if that's all you're going to do is have to do MTD ITSA. And I imagine that's going to push most people to go limited just to get away from the headache of it, and give them an extra 4, 5, 6 years until corporation tax becomes MTD compliant. And then all we're doing then is we're going to be going through with the clients that we've got, and we're going to have to then have all these extra conversations with them and communications with them and talking them through and preparing them or not preparing. And it just puts a big cloud over it. Whereas before, what MTD originally was going to be a big change. Everyone was going to be all in. We're all going to be prepared for it. And we were just going to prepare for whatever date it is now it was going to be. Now it's just going to be this slowly catch a monkey type approach, and all we're going to end up doing is just confusing our client base even more. And we, the software providers out there are going to, who have been, preparing their solutions since day one for MTD, are just going to end up, struggling to get their solutions working as intended, because we're not going to get enough people on the platform to use it. We've still not got an incentive to be MTD compliant. We've still not got a reason to jump ahead and become it before the deadline. And now it looks like we're going to have even less people in the process and the platform in 2 years' time anyway. So, it's going to be 3-4 years until we have a really stable solution that we can be really proud and understand and everything else. And it's just a shame. I mean, we've already talked about the benefits of MTD lots on this podcast alone, and we'll still continue to push that. We think it's a good thing in terms of helping clients, getting that opportunity to have real-time information, having the opportunity to have, the next step where you could have everyone's on software, so let's pass the data to one another and all that sort of stuff. And this just pushes all that back. So it's, in my opinion, it's a massive shame. And I think all they've done is just complicated it further. And it's ultimately going to be left to us accountants to pick up the pieces, do as much training and as much awareness as we can. But ultimately, we're just going to add on another 15 minutes to every client engagement chat we have now, because we've got to go talking about what MTD means for them and how that's going to be and the rollout and everything else. So other than we finally know the date, I think it's all bad news in my opinion. What about you, Johann? What's your opinion on it? Are you happy? Not happy?
I think I'm in the same boat as you. I'm really frustrated by it. I'm getting fed up with them constantly moving goalposts and making the proactive of us look like idiots to our clients and also to our fellow peers in the industry. The only people that have come out of this looking rosy are those that I'd argue are negative and say naysayers and doom and gloom, it won't happen, blah blah blah. They're the only ones that have come out of this looking, we told you so. Whereas those of us that were just going, right, that's fine. If this is the rules that you're putting in place, let's embrace it. Let's get on with it. We see this best in practice. That's fine. And we're now looking like the clowns. I'd love anyone else's opinions. If you've got any thoughts on this, please do stick it into the chat and we will shout you out. But yeah, I mean, we already know how much hassle monitoring a client's turnover for VAT thresholds is. So if we're just considerably increasing that workload now, because the software doesn't go whoop whoop alert, this person's just passed the threshold, you need to do the X, Y, and Z. So we already waste time, and businesses already see crossing a VAT threshold of 85 grand as a punishment. It's not a sign of success. It's not a congratulations, you're growing. It's a tax. It's a punishment. And we're now bringing that in for £50,000 for sole traders. And then we're going to bring it in for £30,000. They're not going to see this as, oh, this is another achievement. Look at this. I've now got to use the MTD portal because I am doing so well. They're going to go, oh, is it worth that extra couple of quid? Or do I just keep it under that threshold and not grow? And by limiting a business's growth, we're damaging the economy in the grand scheme of things. How better off would the UK economy be if we didn't have an £85,000 turnover threshold, where a huge chunk of businesses are maintaining a turnover below that because they do not want to go into VAT period filing? It's a nightmare. And the amount of clients that will ask, well, what are my options? Can I set up another limited company and try? It encourages tax evasion when we put these caps and limits on, because people are going to go, right, well, they already do it for VAT, don't they? They go, right, I've got a sole trader, I'm doing £84,500 turnover. If I now set up a limited company and siphon off a bit of this into that, does that get me through it? Can I set up a partnership? Can I do this? Can I spin this off into a different part of the business? It becomes a total and utter opportunity for tax evasion. It gets people thinking in completely the wrong mindset. Whereas it should just be this is how you run a business. This is how you file your taxes in the UK. Regardless, it shouldn't have thresholds. We should all just be doing the same thing, just to make life easier for everyone involved. And if we are having thresholds, they need to be incentivized. They need to be, hey, that's fantastic. You've crossed the VAT threshold. You must be doing really well. Not there goes 20% of your income. Overall, I'm extremely frustrated. Leanne Wall on LinkedIn has just said she totally agrees that HMRC have made us all look like idiots. So I'm going to go on the assumption here that Leanne has been one of those proactive accountants or bookkeepers that have gone out, started planning, educating their clients maybe. And then we've got Andy Wainwright, who doesn't care. He's rolling it out anyway. So from the 6th of April 23, he's going to start rolling out MTD. It's because it's going to take him probably 3 years to get it all rolled out and ready to go and be proficient with their experience and training their staff, which is it's a really good angle to have. I think, I don't know about Aaron, but I'm certainly looking at how many clients can we put onto the MTD. It's a solution as soon as possible. Our biggest challenge, however, is it's our next topic, isn't it, Aaron? So our biggest challenge for rolling out MTD ITSA for our clients is this whole 6th of April to 5th of April 1800s style deadline that no accounting software reports to. We need the tax period reform to come through, and they've got 2 years to do that now. So hopefully they're going to do it. And what we're saying here is we want a financial year, the tax year for self-employed, to run from the 1st of April to the 31st of March, or Aaron's dream solution, the 1st of January to the 31st of December, which it's got some benefits there. Like if you run January to December, 9 months after that, what's that put you in? September for your tax deadline. That's get your tax returns done by September, enjoy your winter, and start again in January. I quite like that. I can see a lot of benefits for us as accountants.
Yeah, while you're on your beach, that's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. So Aaron, thoughts on tax reform that I've outlined?
Well, personally, for me, I think we've had this big delay, and in my opinion, if we're having this big delay for MTD, we need some sort of incentive or give us an opportunity to have some good news around it. We were talking again at the Digital Accounting Show about the fact that why haven't we been told sooner? And our opinion was that there must be some sort of positive PR they're dreaming up, and they're going to tell us this big PR thing, this HMRC, and we were thinking, well, what could this positive PR be? And there wasn't any, was there? At the end of the day, it was just we're going to delay it, we're going to stick on a few thresholds and muddy the water. For me, this whole opportunity of doing a tax reform or tax period reform gives us that positive spin. Like you said, 31st of March seems like a no-brainer. We're losing 5 days, 6 days, whatever it is, and that's the as big as a problem it's going to be. All the software is going to be easier to handle it. We're going to have clients who are going to make it a little bit more straightforward, and it just cleans things up. It makes things more simple. And if we had the 31st of December, yes, it's a huge change, but that means that from a client's point of view, they can see that huge change coming. It makes it easier for them to understand. They can see what year they're in. That's what tax year they're going to be. And then it also means that they know that this big change is coming, so that must mean they're moving to some form of new tax system. And oh, look, it's MTD, and oh, look, it's all tied in at the same time, and everyone makes sense. And actually, maybe that's the incentive that you give them. If they go to MTD earlier, they get 31st of December as a year end for them. That could be even easier for them to manage. And for me, if we're going to have this delay and we want this positive PR spin, well, let's give us some form of incentive. I can't imagine they're going to give us a tax reduction. And another dream scenario would be, jump on the MTD, it's a pilot, and you'll get a nice little tax deduction. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I can guarantee we'll get a lot more clients to sign up if we did that. So why not give us another incentive? Why not give us the opportunity to change the tax period or something? So, yeah, I hope this is an opportunity, that this delay gives them the chance to go all out and just give us that chance to as Andy says here, ruin the summer holidays. Let's do it. Let's move it to September.
You can tell we've not got kids, can't you?
Exactly. But I think I kind of see it as if they're on MTD ITSA, then the information is going to be there in theory, and it's never going to be that straightforward. But in theory, the actual final 9-month final submission, 9 months after deadline submission, should be a doddle. The information should be there, should make it easier. So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. That's my wish list. What about you, Johann? What do you think? Do you think it's a pipe dream, or do you think something's got to be changed?
I'd love them to at least reform it for April to March, just full months, because that's what accounting software reports in. I think every single one of my clients is already reporting in those months, and we just put those dates on the accounts on the tax return. Anyway, we don't mess around with those extra 5 days. We just say this is the accounting period, because as I say, it's so much easier. We're educating clients to look at their accounting software. Do they just go in and go, I want from the 1st of this to the 31st of this as of my report? Or do they go in and mess around with, on the 5th to the 6th, and oh, what, that looks odd. Oh, that's because what I was thinking of, that sale came in on the 6th, not on the 5th. Like, let's work in whole months at least, if not whole years. No matter what we do, it's going to upset someone. And we are going to see someone or a group of people complaining that it doesn't work for them. So we do just need to look at what's working for the majority. But I think full months would work for the majority. Andy's just pointing out they did a financial incentive for PAYE RTIs of £250. That pays for more than the software back then, which was a success. So HMRC have got form, they've got history of incentivizing us onto new processes. Will they give us something like that? Like file through MTD ITSA, and we'll give you £250 off your first year's tax return. I mean, I've got a lot of clients that will go, okay, fine. If that's going to offset our accounting software, then absolutely brilliant. And Paul has just said, don't forget all the benefits of real-time reporting. Paul, I couldn't agree more. And I think even with the MTD, it's a deadline not happening. Chris Downing did an absolutely fantastic video on LinkedIn the day after the announcement of MTD, it's being delayed. It very much felt like King's speech, Christmas Day message from the King to me. He was talking about that, yes, MTD is delayed, but we all know best in class is to use software. That's best practice. So regardless of delay, we should all be preaching that software is the best way forwards. And we as accountants should be always telling our clients what is the best practice, and that is digital filing software. And unfortunately, we just don't have the stick behind us of the legislation that we were going to have originally. Chris is obviously tuned in and listening. Is thanking us. You're more than welcome, Chris. Fantastic way to put a spin on what for most people is a frustrating bit of news. We were all building up to this. How many conferences have been just talking about MTD up to now? I mean, there's a question for you, Aaron. What's everyone going to talk about at the conferences for the next 2 years?
This is it. I mean, what we're going to talk about, that's the other question.
Well, this is true, yeah.
I think the only other bit of positivity out of this is what wasn't announced. And I think that's a good thing, isn't it? Like, they didn't go down the route of talking about payments. So payments aren't going to be quarterly, which was everyone was worried about. And we thought if they're going to delay it, then surely that was going to come through. They didn't add things like dividends to the reporting. I mean, if they started adding things like that to it, then we could have had even more confusion and people there. And so, and I suppose the other good news is the fact that they didn't say they're going to release their own software as well. Because if HMRC provided some software, that would have been catastrophic to everyone. Can you imagine how that would have worked? So I suppose
catastrophic to the accounting softwares, or catastrophic to
clients.
Oh, right.
Can you imagine them having to use a HMRC produced piece of software? Whew. So I suppose there is a few bits of positives still, so we're not on a complete downer about it for the next, however long we've got until it goes live. But yeah, it is, and that does give us some topics to talk about. But yeah, it is going to be an interesting conference season going forward, isn't it? As when we can't just fall back on our MTD chats. But so right there, Chris has got some plans what to talk about. Yeah, maybe some news about some potential, extra acquisitions. Maybe let's start that fire rolling. See what happens there. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, what we're going to do as an industry now that we not got MTD to fall back on.
I mean, I'm really hopeful that we're going to see a broader array of topics and conversations at conferences now that MTD is not the be all and end all, and it's not got a deadline within 12 months. I remember my frustration at conferences a couple of years ago when VAT MTD was coming in, and you'd walk past the room where someone was talking about MTD VAT, and the room was standing room only. I'm just sat there going, we've spoken about this for 5 years. How do you not know what's going on? Like, why are you still not doing anything about it, type thing? But as the software providers said at the time, that's what fills a room. Talk about the MTD legislation, because most accountants that sat in that room have kept their head in the sand for the last 5 years, and they're coming out now because it's actually happening. So yeah, it's frustrating. It is frustrating. But speaking of frustrating and HMRC, did you see my rant on LinkedIn, Aaron?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think we just need to explain to the audience who haven't, because I think this kind of sums it up. And we had another topic, didn't we, about how HMRC has sent out incorrect reminders. So it's just, we're getting to that point where you can kind of understand why the delay was from. The systems are clearly not ready for digitalization. That is definite. So explain to the audience exactly what happened, because I think there's been some interesting points to be made.
So basically, my dad's got multi-neurons disease, and he's at that point where he can still talk just about. He's very slurred, and he's lost all confidence in talking to anyone on the phone. HMRC for the last few months have been taxing him with a very, very high tax code, and it's not sorted itself out. So I said to him, it's not an issue. We'll send off your power. I've got power of attorney for his financial matters. So we'll send that off. We'll get that sorted. Sent it off back in November, courtesy of the postal strikes, etc. It was delayed getting to HMRC, but I've had confirmation that it's at HMRC because I've sent it as recorded. If anyone sends anything to HMRC, send it recorded so you know it's arrived, and then at least you know it's their fault that things aren't happening. So I rang them on Friday. I spent 70 minutes on hold to them. I was going slightly mad in the corner, rocking by the hold music and how important my call was to them and how quickly they're going to get to me. But spent 70 minutes on hold to find that they didn't have my power of attorney. They hadn't processed it. Sorry, I called them at the start of the week to find they didn't have my power of attorney. They hadn't processed it yet. Well, they did have it, but they hadn't processed it, so they couldn't talk to me. So I then rang them on Friday, having gone through the MTD ITSA portal and got client authorization from my dad using that link, which my dad absolutely loved. He thought that was fantastic, that you could get instant authorization using a link online, because it meant he didn't have to talk to anyone. We weren't waiting weeks for code to be sent out or anything. Only for me to then spend 70 minutes on the hold to HMRC to find out that those authorizations on the MTD ITSA portal that will show me all his incomes. It allows me to file on his behalf, shows me what he doesn't owe to HMRC, doesn't give me the authorization to speak to HMRC for him. So it took 70 minutes of being on hold to get to this point. They can't even see on their current system that I'm authorized, even though I had it in front of me and I could see all his intimate details, as it were. I'm just like, well, that's really frustrating. I'm his son. I've got his power of attorney that you've not processed, because apparently it's taken 180 days to process a power of attorney at the moment for HMRC. And I've got two links clicked and authorized, and I can see all his details on your portal, but your portal is not telling me, not telling you that I'm authorized to talk to you on his behalf. And a lot of this could have just been solved, and I wouldn't have even bothered with the links if they turned around and told me what the authorization I was sending off for actually authorized me to do. And it doesn't say by doing this you'll get this authorization. Ultimately, I was told I need to call them back once I'd filed a 64.8 form. I'm just like, you're digitalizing the system, and the best you can tell me to do is print off a bit of paper, fill it out, get my dad's signature on there and post it, or get a client's signature on there and post it.
And then wait 180 days again.
And then wait forever for them to process that 648. I just think the whole system, they've got all the dots and they just need to do a dot to dot and link the dots. Like, my niece could do dot to dot at the age of 3. You know, she could put things together. Like, it just shows, I think, how much of a mess HMRC are in at the moment. Sorry, my dog's bored of me talking about this. We've got debt collection letters going out to clients for payments that were made on time. We've got VAT letters going out to clients for VAT periods that were filed on time, but the HMRC system hasn't reconciled the payments quick enough. But the automated debt collections kicked in. So we're now wasting our time ringing HMRC saying, we've got the proof, here's the bank statement, you can see the payment went out on this date, so you would have had it in time. Oh yeah, we can see it now. Ignore that letter. It's like, no, don't just ignore the letter, because you need to go and fix the problem. Because at the moment, you've made me look bad to my client because they're saying, oh, you didn't file something, or you didn't tell me in time to pay something. You've made me waste my time on hold to speak to you for a problem that you don't really acknowledge is a problem. So, oh no, we can see the payment now, we'll just resolve that. So that's not good enough. You've damaged my professional reputation with that client. You've damaged my goodwill with that client. You've wasted my time calling you. And yeah, so we've got authorizations that don't authorize us. We've got a bank reconciling process that's too slow, and debt collection goes out quicker. And then we've got MTD, it's a delay for 2 years. I mean, if I was running my business the way HMRC run HMRC, I wouldn't be in business anymore. But yeah, so I'm going to stop there before I carry on ranting any further.
I think next time, the first thing you need to do next time is when you're through to finally after that 45 minutes is say, which computer are you on? Are you on the steam powered or are you on the new ones? You know,
how many hamsters you got in the wheel?
Yeah, exactly. But it's true that, I mean, yeah, it's so frustrating. And even like this new whole 64.8 process that they brought out, or this new authorization process, should I say, it's not called 64.8 anymore, is it? But there was no guidance on that. It was ages until we found out about the new VAT one. Like, there wasn't enough HMRC communication about, oh, here's a new system and this how it works. It was just soft launched to if you were curious enough to be clicking through the new VAT digital portal, then you might find it or you might not. And even when you do find it, you have to go through your own process, recording the screens and everything else, to be able to have any chance of a client being able to know what to do and how to do it and everything else. Because we were confused when it was first there and presented in front of us about this link that you click, and you click on this link and it goes to here. So it's just become, a complete mess in the way that they do it. And like you said, there needs to be that communication about what 64.8 does what. Like, there should be a defined guide, or at least the client should have the opportunity to say what they want their authorization to be. If we've got this new digital way of doing it, then where's the drop-down box to say, allow this advisor to talk to HMRC on my behalf, but allow this advisor to only file on my behalf? That's what's needed, isn't it? That's the client giving authorization. That's what ultimately the whole worry about all this is that, the wrong person's going to talk to the wrong client at some point, or, give the client the opportunity just to go in and define what that authorization level is going to be. And then everyone knows and everyone's on the same page. The client can say, look, I've given you authorization to look after my tax affairs, or, you know what, I'm not giving you authorization anymore, so I'm going to turn it off. That's what it should have been built from day one. And even, these new fancy ways of authorization, which I agree is completely better. The idea is instant. You send a link, everything's done. But then they've also gone backwards in terms of there's no API link. So software providers can't automate that for you, can't help you get authorized anymore from the VAT side of things, and again from the MTD side of things. So, they're building these brand new systems, but they're not listening to the feedback of what was holding back the old systems. And that's where the frustration comes from, isn't it? We wouldn't mind if it was still the old 64.8 system and we still have all those issues and all those problems with it. But if they're going to reform it and bring a whole new authorization process, then why not talk to us? Why not ask us what our problems were, and let's fix them at the same time? So, yeah, unfortunately, I think, it's the time as well, isn't it? It's in the middle of January. So it's the worst possible time for you to have to be on the call to them for 45 minutes at a time. So, yeah.
Well, that's it. And then at the start of January, end of December, they put out a bulletin that said, to help with things over January in the busy season, we're only going to be able to take calls on our self-assessment tax line for complex scenarios. But they couldn't quite define what a complex scenario looked like to them. So I'm just going on the assumption, if I need to call HMRC, it's a complex scenario. So it's not going to reduce the amount of calls I'm putting in. Because if it wasn't complex, then I'd have dealt with it myself. So, yeah.
Because they're pushing, aren't they, that, they're not going to give P60 information, all that sort of stuff this year. Like, that's no. Because back in the day, that's, you'd have a whole team member of your team would just sit there on the phone to HMRC all day, just getting 64.8 the P60 information and P11D information. And they've said, oh, we're not giving that information anymore. You're just going to have to go on the MTD portal. Problem is that MTD portal is never actually up to date. So, we've constantly gone, we've got the P60 in front of us, or even better, we've done a P60 and we've checked the system and it's not even reflecting on there. So, again, they can have these stances and they can try and push and they can say, we're not going to give you the information, but they need to have a system that's robust enough to be able to get us to have that, haven't they? So that's how I ran. And Paul's also jumped in as well, hasn't he? They just have too many dots authorization for every type of tax or portal is stupid. Yeah, again, if we could just have one place where a client could go in and tick a box and state what that's going to be and untick a box, because how many times do clients fall out with their advisors and want to be able to do that? And also, what's the point of authorization when you have what I had last month? A client had been authorized for 5+ years and suddenly got removed, so I had to send in a new 64.8. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, those sort of stories are too common, aren't they, in the profession? And like you said, it stops our credibility. Like if a client comes back to you and asks for 64.8 5+ years down the line, that makes it look like we forgot to do it at the day one. You know, makes us look bad. So you're right. It's HMRC.
Yeah, and you're right. Like the MTD portal doesn't show all the incomes, so I finally managed to encourage the advisor to try and take note of what I'm telling them on the phone on Friday, and said, "Look, you don't need to give me any information. I'm making you aware of a situation. I'm asking you to review his tax calculation. If you go and do that, fantastic. If you know, we've not got authority to review it because you've not got authority, so fine." But what she did tell me was, I said, "Look, I can see the incomes on this MTD portal. There's 3 pensions, my mum's pension and his." And she says, "Oh no, he's got he's got more incomes than that." Well, why is it not on the MTD income portal? So I've looked into it further without HMRC's help. I don't believe they are listing DWP incomes. So they're only listing incomes on the MTD portal that receive a P60, basically. So any benefits from Departments of Work and Pension stuff, none of that's listed.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's another part of the government. So why would they be talking to one another? I mean, you're asking a lot there, Jan. You know what I mean?
I mean, what it looks like is the DWP told HMRC they're going to be paying him an income for a benefit, which they then decided they weren't going to pay him, but they forgot to tell HMRC that they weren't going to pay him. So HMRC are still taxing him, expecting that income, even though they can see for the last 6 months he's not had it. So yeah, we got to love the government systems, haven't we? Government departments, everyone's favourite.
It gives us a job, doesn't it? So, you know.
It really does. Yeah, but it's not a job we want. It's not a job that adds value or anything like that. We're just firefighting on HMRC's behalf, and we're not being paid by HMRC to do that for them. You know, our job is to be out there advising our clients, helping them grow their businesses, helping them contribute to the tax system through paying higher taxes because they've got higher profits, and by contributing to the economy through employment, etc. That's our job, is to help our clients achieve their goals and to contribute to society by running their businesses. It is not our job to be apologising on HMRC's behalf for their mess ups, which is, it seems that's all we do at the moment. But yes, right. On a more lighter note, Aaron, did you see or have you heard of ChatGPT? Have you heard of that one yet?
I have, yeah.
On LinkedIn,
and this is quite adaptive. I was talking about our jobs as well, isn't it? So
yes, yeah. So for those that haven't heard of it, get yourself on LinkedIn. It's all over there. But ChatGPT is it's a chat API. It's you ask it a question, it will give you an answer. It's very politically correct. It doesn't take sides, I've noticed. Having put into it saying, why is QuickBooks better than Xero? It came back saying, technically speaking, QuickBooks may not be better than Xero. And these are the benefits of QuickBooks versus the benefits of Xero. They weren't all quite right. Like they were saying Xero's got multi-currency, and it's like, no, QuickBooks has got multi-currency as well. But regardless of that, what you have to admit is it is intelligent. It is incredibly clever. I said, what is MTD VAT? And it came back to me with the full brief, accurate, etc. It didn't know what MTD ITSA was. But to be fair, neither does HMRC, so I'm not surprised. But as Andy Wainwright's just said, it is Terminator territory. Like, we are getting scary, scary, clever tech here. But the reason we're talking about it today is someone, I can't remember their name, has decided to ask this chat feature all the questions in the first stage of an ACA exam. So an accounting exam. I think the pass rate for this accounting exam is 55%. The chat tool, completely automated, was just asked these questions and it scored 42% on this exam. Now, okay, it's not coming for your jobs yet, but this is just a beta. This is just a kind of first dabble for these guys that have built it. And if they've got the technology to get 42% an accounting exam, it makes you wonder, how long have you got until Dave in the pub gets replaced with Chat GPT or a similar version? Because 42%, that's just enough to be about dangerous, isn't it? So yeah, Aaron, what are your thoughts that a Chat GPT is going to be as qualified as you are within the next year or two?
I mean, it is impressive, isn't it? Like you said, getting to 42%, that is dangerously close. And I'll always remember back to when QuickBooks tried it, didn't they? They tried the whole QuickBooks Chat or QuickBooks Assist, wasn't it? And he's pop up and you ask it a question, and it'll answer it for you, and that was always put to us in that dream scenario as well, wasn't it? Back in the day, in the
QB Connect, exactly the same. They're working on this at the moment to have a autoresponder chat feature. So it's very, very prolific in the industry. Like, people are seeing it as the future.
Yeah, and so it should be. I think the idea would be that, a lot of the questions, a lot of the support side of things can all be dealt with, can't they? I mean, it's going to be able to really push us in terms of being able to get those, quote unquote silly requirements or silly questions, and they could get dealt with, and that just gives us the opportunity as business advisors to actually concentrate on the important stuff and help and get rid of the rubbish and just have the the good stuff and the juicy stuff that we can dive into and help. And at some point, then, by the looks of it, they'll be good enough to take over that bit for us, and then we can just retire and everything's hunky dory. But I like the approach. I think it's jokes aside and everything. I think it's a really good push in terms of helping small businesses and giving that opportunity to kind of give us that chance to build those better and more robust solutions. That means that we can just have software that's going to do even more for us going forward. Could you imagine what the end result could be if a client could just spring up and ask them any question directly to the system? It's going to give them some worthwhile results, and that sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds like
maybe HMRC should buy it.
Well, based on their steam powered technology, I'm not sure it's going to go very far, but yeah, it could go through. And Paul's asked a very interesting one. Can it provide dating advice? So yeah, well, maybe that's something that one of the LinkedIn communities can find out for us and feedback to us on that one. And then Chris says that useful post on how to push past a beginner mode on Chat GPT. So there is a nice little post that he's put a link to there. So we'll make sure that link is provided in the show notes. So thanks for that, Chris.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I love things like this that come out of the blue almost, and all of a sudden they're prolific on LinkedIn, and you go and play with it, and it's like, oh my god. But yeah, it is. It doesn't have an opinion of its own. Like I put in why a business coach is so rubbish, and it came back with that's not technically true that all business coaches are so rubbish. These are some of the reasons. Some of them aren't as good, and it went through like they're not experienced, they've not niched down. Some it's going to make blog posts and even YouTube videos a lot easier to create, because you just ask the question in there and it scripts it for you. So yeah, it's a clever tool, and I enjoy playing with it the other week on the weekend, just seeing what it came up with, really. But yeah, 42% on an accounting qualification, that's scary.
I mean, without me alienating some of our our chat and our community, it was just an ACA exam. You know what I mean? It wasn't a proper ACCA. Sorry, it was an ACCA exam, not an ACA exam. So, how to make friends and alienate people. Wow. So,
wow,
if anything, should be disappointed at only 42.
Yeah, when the pass rate's only 5% above half. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, on that
maybe
note,
we should swiftly move on.
Yeah, let's move on before Aaron gets us off air for the rest of our lives.
Cancelled. 2020.
Cancelled, sued, liable cases coming this way. Right. Anyway, moving on. We've had a question in, so let's end the show on a listener's question. Aaron, question for you. How do you upskill, learn, and share information to help clients in specific sectors get the best from their accounts and accountants, i.e., tech, arts, culture reliefs specific to clients' needs?
Absolutely love this question. And honestly, like if you've got any questions, anything to that ilk, then please do put them in, because these are the sort of questions that we dreamed of, wasn't it, when we built this idea and we put the Ask the Accountant together. And for me, it's always, well, I say always, we push now on YouTube being now resource of choice in terms of being able to get us that opportunity to talk to it, because what that does is, yes, you can provide the answer for it, and you can provide some really good context, and you go into as much detail as you need to. And nowadays, with the screen sharing technology and everything else, you can quickly and easily show resources on screens, and you can jump between different people's responses, and you can put together a really good response that can go help as many people as you possibly can. And the beauty of it is, because it's YouTube, means that then other people are going to be able to find it that may never have even considered you as an accountant before, or looked at you as an opportunity. And in being such a good search engine that YouTube is, then you put a good little video together and you'll reap the rewards for it, for evergreen content in some circumstances, and just pushes it from there. So yeah, that's how we've always, well, now this is how we're going to be going forward, is always going to be pushing for content to be done. We want to create that evergreen YouTube video that then people can come back to in 5 years time or whatever it's going to be, and push it from there. And when you think about how many niches there are out there, it gives you an opportunity to just go down on the ones that you're comfortable with and you feel that you can bring some extra elements to and help for. And then other accountants are going to fill in the gaps for the other niches. And it's, it just gives us that opportunity to kind of build up that community and everything else. So yeah, YouTube for me and video content is always going to be our best solution for it. What about you? Is it LinkedIn and LinkedIn only, or where are you going from?
How do we upskill ourselves and our team? I mean, we have so many different things going on. Like, we attend conferences, we attend webinars, we read the HMRC agent updates, we use YouTube to look into various topics, we read the HMRC website for their guidance on different reliefs that we can and can't claim. In my firm, we've got client managers who've got different specialities in different fields, and we're constantly learning from each other and calling each other for advice and going, well, I've got this, I've not dealt with it before, I think you dealt with it recently, kind of what am I looking for? So it's just continuous professional development, basically. It is just that continuous way of learning. And at times we are going to come across things that we go, oof, that's completely out of our remit. So for a lot of people, R&D tax credits is completely out of their remit. And that's where we go, and we, through our networks, whether it's through a networking meeting, whether it's through our LinkedIn profile, we reach out and we find people that have got that expertise to come in and assist our clients with that. So, we're very lucky. We've got Scott in our practice. He is an R&D guru. He knows it inside out. But if any of my clients are ever looking at liquidation, insolvency and stuff, we use a guy called Peter down in London, and he's absolutely fantastic. He's got the right ethos, and he understands our clients, he understands how we work, and he works the same. So it's just finding those experts and just knowing when you don't know something. You've got to be self-aware enough to go, this is out of my field. This is too niche. It's too expertise for this one little thing. I'm not going to go to all the effort to learn this whole thing just for one client. I'm going to bring in an advisor. Now, I might tell the client I've brought that advisor in, or I might just go pick that advisor's brains, because we don't need to know huge amounts about it, and then go back to the client. So yeah, just continuous professional development. And the bigger your team gets, you'll find the broader those subjects and topics are, and you'll gain a more and more broader range of expertise and knowledge within the firm. If you've only got one person in your firm, you're a one-man band or a two-person band, whatever it is, then the amount of knowledge one person can retain in their head is only limited to a finite amount. So the bigger your team gets, the more breadth of information you hold within your team, which is fantastic. But if you've got a smaller team, then having a broad network of experts around you where you can just go, look, can I buy you a coffee and just pick your brain about X, Y, or Z? Then that's really powerful when you're a small 1, 2, 3 person business upwards.
And also niching down, isn't it? Like if you're
Yeah.
keeping to your set type of clients that you're comfortable with and you know you can help with and you'll be able to answer those questions to, then that helps as well, doesn't it? But you know, like we've already kind of said at the beginning of the show, we're going through busy periods, and this is a time where we're going to get new inquiries, and probably inquiries that we don't necessarily normally kind of push towards in our niches and stuff, because it's going to be friends of friends, or the person who's you've just helped do their tax returns going to push and shout about it, and they're now going to tell someone else. So yeah, you suddenly open yourself up to a lot of different opportunities around this sort of time, don't you? So yeah, it's like you said, getting that network together is the important bit.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully that has helped answer that question.
Great question.
Yeah, fantastic question. Any questions like that, we've just dropped in the Linktree link, which has got all of our forms and stuff in. You can go and ask any questions on there. If you're a software provider or any other kind of business that wants to sponsor the podcast, you can do that through that link as well. But yeah, I think that's all the rants I've got for today. I think I'm just going through the list quickly, but yeah, I think we've covered everything. Aaron, have you got anything you want to add?
No, I think with it being January, I think it's good to, let's make sure we don't overstay our welcome. Make sure we keep it to that hour. So it is good to, let's move on, and we'll be there next week, and we'll see what's happening in the world of accountancy next week.
Brilliant. Well, this podcast version of this, which is just the audio of this recording from today, will go live into the podcast stream on Wednesdays. Remember, if you want to ask questions on the show, you're more than welcome to. Just join us live 8:30 every Monday morning. We are back and running, and we will be weekly for the rest of the year until next Christmas. Not that I'm wishing that on us straight away, but we've got absolutely tons of ideas of things we want to do. We've got a huge list of people that have asked if we will interview them, which is absolutely fantastic. We're really excited about that. So there's going to be a lot more Ask the Accountant. We've got Cool Friends episodes coming this year. We're hoping to do some live reaction stuff at different conferences to different announcements. And yeah, we'll just continue to deliver the news and our opinions of it throughout the year. So Aaron, what have you got going on this week, or are you just in Norfolk relaxing?
No, come back today. So yeah, it is back to it today. Got some training to do for QuickBooks, and also just keep going for this January deadline and keep pushing as much as possible. So yeah, I appreciate everyone who did join in this morning. 8:30 was a struggle, Andy, as I can you're right saying there. I know. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for being here. But yeah, this week is just getting that January deadline as done and dusted as possible. What about you, Jan? You got much planned?
No, diary is looking fairly empty meeting wise. I've got a couple of small client meetings to go and have a chat with them over a coffee, which would be nice. They're all smaller clients. They're all quite nice and friendly. Just go and have a coffee with, which would be good. And a slice of cake from my favourite coffee shop down in Portobello. And then back here next Monday, I think. That's the extent of how busy my diary is at the moment. So I'll be doing self-assessment tax returns pretty much all week. So, which is fine. I enjoy those. It's the only thing the team let me do that's technical anymore. So yeah, well, they let me do it and then double check I've done it right. But yeah, so yeah, thank you everybody for joining us on our first episode back for 2023. It's a really exciting ideas and plans on the year ahead of us. But for today, thank you very much. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me, as I'm still not got to grips with actually pressing the outro. Bye, everyone.
Bye.